Are you about to turn 30? Are you about to turn 40? Are you about to hit those 50s? Well, this is part of what you can expect in your 30s, your 40s, and your 50s. Now, I'm a young Gen Xer. I'm currently in my last hours of my 40s. The clock is ticking. But for the people that's a little bit younger, here's a little bit of advice for you. And some of the stuff that I've heard from some of the people a little bit older than me, some of the older Gen Xers, some of the boomers. This is what they say you can expect in your 30s, your 40s, and your 50s. Now, I'll go with 4 main topics: money, health, your goals, your objectives, what you're trying to get to, and lastly, sex. Now, when it comes to money, in your 30s, in a lot of ways, it's probably your prime years to go get the money. Pay attention to the words that I'm saying. To go get the money. That implies that implies physical. That implies mobility. That implies you doing the work. You going to get the work. All of the dotting of the I's, all of the crossing of the T's in a physical form. In your 30s, you're probably in your best shape, in the best way that you can go get the money. Now, depending upon if you got family, depending upon whatever decisions you've made, you may not be able to go get it like you want to. But in your 30s, it's probably your prime years to go get it. Your 40s, I think I've seen some statistics that say in your 40s is your prime earning years, like as far as an occupation. Like if you have an occupation, 40 is probably your prime earning years because you're not young. They're not paying you like they pay young people. You've been in the game. You've learned some experience. You've sharpened your skills, sharpened your sword. And so now maybe in your occupation in your 40s, you're getting paid much better than someone in their 20s or in their early 30s. In your 50s, which is obviously a little bit closer to your 60s, I read something where in your 60s is actually your prime, wealth years. And that's probably because maybe you're still earning money from an income, perhaps. And maybe you're getting a certain premium because of your knowledge or experience, perhaps. But you're also making money through some of your lifetime investments, a home or a 401k or, just different other moves you might have shot over the course of your lifetime that's been able to get some compounding interest, some compounding annual growth. Maybe you're still out here flipping nickels and dimes. But the point being is the difference between your 30s, your 40s, and your 50s is that, let's look at it, say sports. And we'll adjust it just a little bit. In sports, your prime physical years are your 20s, right? In your 30s, though, you still got some juice, but you know a lot more than you did in your 20s. And if you're fortunate enough to still be playing at a high level in your 40s, no, you can't do what you did in your 20s, and probably not in your 30s, but you also know more than you ever did. You've been around the block once or twice. You've seen things come and go. And so that knowledge now is a premium, but not on the physical level. You see what I'm saying? In many ways when it comes to making money, and I say this in one of my other previous videos, in many ways, making money physically, making money with your back, and making money where you have to do the actual physical work is making money on the lowest level. First, you make money with your back, actually doing the work. Secondly, you make money with your brain, supply and demand, figuring out more efficient ways to do it. And then on the third level, that's near the top, you start making money with your money. So when an athlete is in their prime physical years, in their 20s, they're getting paid, obviously really good depending upon the sport, but not as good as if that prime athlete can reach their 30s. Because in their 30s, in all of the structures of all of the contracts and stuff, and just pretty much throughout all of working society, there's a slight premium to having experience, there's a slight premium to having knowledge, to know what to do, to have an understanding of what to do. Even if your decision might be wrong, you've seen this before. You're not just brand new, fresh out the bathtub. You know what I'm saying? You got your clothes on. You're not just brand new, wet, naked out here. If you understand figuratively what I'm saying. But my point being is that when you're making money in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, it's kind of like those athletes making money in their 20s, their 30s, and their 40s. When you're younger and you're making money with your body, you're going to probably get paid less, even though physically you're in the prime of your life. It's fucked up a little bit, ain't it? In the physical prime of your life, you're actually probably going to get paid lower. And then in your 30s, so that's your 30s. In your 40s, no, you can't physically do what you used to do in your 20s and 30s, but you damn sure should know more. You damn sure should have experienced more and be able to get extract some value from that. So in your 40s, no, you're not able to physically do what you used to do, but you should know more. And so therefore, and because what you know is way more expansive than what you can do, then potentially, like I said, maybe more in your 40s, you're starting to make some money with your brain now and less with your back. And in your 50s, it's extrapolated to the next level. You are doing much less physically in your 50s than you did in your 30s, in your 40s. But that brain should have been at work, dotting I's and crossing T's, networking, researching things, and putting things together so that you are now starting to make money with your brain. So that's the key difference between your 30s, 40s, and your 50s when it comes to making money. Building your credit, going back to school, learning skills and trades, and all of that stuff can be done. But you have to understand, really probably the core denominator in all of that is that as you age, you lose the physical ability to do it, to gain the money, to make the money, to bring the money home. But hopefully you gain the brain ability, the knowledge, the experience needed to make that money come to you now. So when it comes to health, this is all related to health, I guess. When it comes to health in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, it's different health standards. Some people keep their health long time. 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I know some people, I know a dude, he grew up on the farm, maybe it's in his DNA, in his early 80s. His brother lived to be in his mid-90s, still out here doing stuff, not like at the clubs and stuff, but I mean like still physically active, still, you know, relatively with their mind out here. Like they aged, but they didn't become obsolete. They didn't become decrepit. Your health is your health. Whatever, and everyone has to deal with something. Everyone has to deal with something. So as best as you can deal with whatever health issues come your way, it just seems to start to speed up, to magnify for most people in their 30s, their 40s, and their 50s. So like I said, going back to the athletes, you know, in my 30s, I still could dunk. I'm 6'2", at my heaviest probably 245, at my lightest maybe 230, 227, built like a linebacker. My 30s, I could still get up and crank one. My 40s, it became much less. It's been a couple of years since I've dunked. And unless something changes, it ain't going to happen in my 50s and going forward. So just something like that. Lower back injuries. I never had any significant lower back injuries in my 30s. My 20s, my 30s? No. Just seems like any injuries you get, you just kind of bounce back. In my 40s, I ended up having like a significant lower back injury. I mentioned this in one of the other videos. Go check out some of the other videos I got on the channel playlist, because I talk about different other Gen X type topics, 30s, 40s, 50-year-old, you know, stuff that people, you know, our generation, our age range talks about. Anyway, I mentioned how it was in my 40s, for the first time, that I had to start thinking about things I never had to think about and related to health and related to mobility. I was laid up for about a week with a lower back injury and struggled to get around and stuff. And it was the first time I started even thinking about stuff like, should I be strapped when I go out? Like, instead of, you know, your gun just being for home safety, should it be for all, everywhere you go safety? Because, you know, you can't, You can't respond physically like you want to. You can throw them things still, but if your back or something significant in your body is aching, you don't want to be vulnerable and pray out here. Also, health wise, depending upon how somebody's been eating their whole life. In your 30s, I mentioned this one particular thing in another video. Please go check out some of the other stuff that I have. But I mentioned how your 40s, in many ways, your 40s is kind of like a teenage period before you enter your older period. So this is what I mean. Your teens, your 20s, and your 30s. You think of yourself as young. It's in your 40s that's like this hybrid period. It's like you are not young, but you're not old. You're what I like to call, in your 40s, you go through the transition of being old young to young old. And it happens to all of us if you're fortunate enough to be around. So what I'm getting to is in your 30s, you still kind of have the mindset of a young person. And so you're still willing to do certain physical things and try certain physical things. You might just bust out on a sprint and just race somebody for no reason. You know what I'm saying? You just might, do certain physical things because you still can, because you're still wired to do it. Your 40s, you go through some rewiring. You just go ask LeBron. He's still out there playing. You go through some rewiring. You start asking yourself much, much more. Why? Why should I do that? I don't need to do that. Why should I try to dunk and rise up on 2-3 people? I don't have to. It's a combination of, I don't think I can. But, so you start adjusting to different things. You start grunting more and moaning more when you start doing certain things. And so like in your 30s, like I said, you still have the mindset, you'll just do it. You'll just try it. You still try to actually have a race with a teenager. In your 40s, you start asking so much more. Why? What's the benefit to me to do this physical thing that I might have to suffer from? I still love to hoop. I still love to play full court. When people come up talking about half court, I'm talking about get off the court. Real people is running here. We got full court. Let's play full court. I love to play full court. That's how I get my cardiovascular in, and I still can do it. Problem is that the recovery time is like 2-3 days guaranteed. For the next 2-3 days guaranteed, I'm going to feel it. It's going to be difficult for me to do other things in my life. So you start to ask, is it worth it? In your 50s, you probably should cut out certain things. Don't cut out the cardiovascular. Get yours in. Stay healthy. Stay mobile. Hey, until the wheels fall off, baby. But in your 50s, yeah, you should probably readjust. I like to say recalibrate. So I also like to play tennis. Tennis is something you can crank up a little bit, or you can make it a little bit easier. It ain't got to be all serious like that, but you want to stay with your health as best as you can. And even if you're not as physically mobile, whatever activities, whatever way that you can eat healthier, I started switching from a lot of red meat over to turkey. It's not red meat. You definitely want to stay away from a lot of the processed red meat as you get older, most definitely. And eat your berries. I heard eating all types of berries: raspberries, cranberries, strawberries, boysenberries, halle berries, all type of berries that you can eat is good for the prostate. So all of these type of things that, like, in your teens, your 20s, and maybe in your 30s, you're not even thinking about health-wise. But if you're smart, if you're paying attention, if you're up in your brain game, you're hearing what some of the people older than you have been saying that you wasn't paying no attention to before. Now you're like, berries, huh? Less processed red meat. So I stopped eating as much red meat, started eating a little bit more turkey. I instituted a meatless Monday so that at least one day a week I'm not eating meat. I don't know if I could ever go vegetarian. But I even, after about a year or so, kicked in a second day. So every now and then there's a second day of the week that I'm eating less red meat. That's 2 out of 7. That's like 28.5% pretty much. that you're eating less red meat. You're still eating good, eating what you want to eat. You just substitute it. So that's health wise. When you're talking about goals, all of these things start to kind of parlay into each other. When you're talking about goals, in your 30s, you might still be living a single life. In your 30s, you might already started a family. And now you got young kids. You got kids that's starting to enter their teenage years, whatever. But your goals are pretty much in that realm, with that narrative of like, I'm still out here, I'm still building, I haven't started a family yet, I haven't gotten married yet, or I just did, or I did in my 20s and I'm redoing it now, whatever. But like, it's kind of like all brand new, still brand new. In your 40s, not as much brand new. There's a new brand new. So the young stuff, the building a family, the getting married, maybe you did it, maybe you didn't do it. But in your 40s, not as much your goal. For some people, it does become hyper their goal. I got to get married. I got to start a family. I got to, whatever. And then you hit some people have their midlife crisis. I know I had mine. Different Gen Xers. If you had yours, maybe tell me about it in the comments or something. I had mine. I'll make a story. I'll make a video about it. I'll make a video about my midlife crisis. Anyway, all tied around your goals and stuff. Did you do what you wanted to do? Did you not do what you wanted to do? Like, is there still time? Is it all pointless? What really matters? Your perspective. I mentioned this in another video. It's about your perspective as you get older. So in your 40s, you're not so much focused on like building in the way that a young person would build. You're focused on like, am I enjoying this shit right now? Right now, am I enjoying this? And do I need to correct some things? And so it's kind of like building, but not from a young perspective, not from the ground floor. In your 50s, like I said, you're continuing on with that. Your 50s, you're still like young, old. And so I think in your 50s, you probably fully shed a lot of the young goals. You might still have like, call it a bucket list. You might still have some things that you're like, no, I'm going to do this before I transition out of this avatar experience we call life. But, like I say, your goals, they change. They have to. You cannot be in your 40s, 50s, and 60s trying to do what teenagers do. You can't be a Gen Xer and be trying to do what Gen Alpha's doing. Or even the young millennials. Like, come on now. Just do what you do, but do it sweet. Do it authentically. And that'll be the best way. And then lastly, sex. Sex in your 30s. Now remember, everybody, this is mostly from a male perspective, mostly from my perspective. So if you got anything different, please chime in. Let the community know in the comments. Sex in your 30s. You still think you're a porn star. You still think assuming you're getting something, you still think you can slang out here. And maybe you can. In your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, you can still be slanging. But this is what I mean. This is the distinction that I'm making. In your 30s, you're still in that young mindset of like, you will expend all your energy on this here one thing that you're focused on. When you get a tad bit older, you're like, I can't spend all of my energy on this one thing that I'm focused on because there's more than one thing. There's more than one thing to be focused on. And I learned that, I gained that knowledge from experience. I had to take that journey. I had to walk that path in order to know now what direction I need to be going in. So in your 40s, you might still be able to, like I said, this is from a male perspective, you might still be able to slang. You might still be able to lay pipe, drop the hammer, play Thor. But you also know, I got to get up in the morning. Or I can't go to sleep after this. I would love to go to, how men are. I would love to go to fucking sleep after this. I got to stay up because I still got business to take care of. I still got responsibilities to take care of. So sex, a lot of times as you get older in your 30s, if you got a family, busy work schedule, but sex in your 30s, it's still with the youngish mentality. I'll expend all of my energy on this moment, on this night, on this weekend, because it's about good sex. Good for you. In your 40s, a little bit more, you got to think a little bit like, what happens after the sex? What happens before the sex? What type of sex is it? Is it good sex? Because I'm not trying to waste my time with bad sex. I'm not trying to chase sex. Maybe some men still are. It's that midlife crisis thing. But I'm not trying to chase sex. I know what I want. I know how to basically align it up, and that's what I'm going for. But when you get in your 50s, hopefully you're still able to do that thing. Maybe you need some pills now. Hey, I'm not disparaging nobody. I haven't needed them yet. Far from it. But, to each its own. Maybe you need to polish that sword in order to really make it, do its thing. But what I'm getting to is as you go through your 30s, 40s, and your 50s, when it comes to sex, a key thing about that becomes scheduling. Scheduling of either time or scheduling of your energy. I have reached the point, most definitely, where it's about scheduling of time. I haven't reached the point where it's so much about scheduling of my energy. But I know at some point, from what I've heard from some of the older Gen Xers, from some of the boomers, they'll be like, look, you got one shot. You got one opportunity for this firework to go off. And if something messes it up, that's it for the day. Whereas when you're in your 20s, your 30s, even some people in their 40s, it's like, come on, bro. We might go at it 3 or 4 times. And it's all good. If you got me turned up like that, yeah. If you got me turned up and we got time, you might get 2 or 3, most definitely. But you get a little bit older, it's like we don't have time. And I got to get up in the morning. And I hurt my back, trying to dunk yesterday. And it's all relative now. So your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, it starts to blend. Some people don't notice the changes until they notice the change, but it's a change. For the most part, it's fine, it's doable, it's rideable, ride the wave. And it is what it is. Anyway, it's your boy, just dropping that little knowledge, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. Maybe somebody can chime in about the 60s and the 70s. We'll see. I'll holler at you.